Alyssa Mahadeo, journalist and community reporter, and I dedicate my time to searching for the stories that matter the most. Positive, uplifting, and inspiring stories that spotlight the challenges and obstacles we conquer to become the people who we are today. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of all the fairy tale lifestyles that people seem to be living on social media. Girl, you did not wake up like that. I'm interested in the genuine connections, the honest opinions, and the real uncut version of your true self. This show is about keeping it 100% real, deconstructing who we are and what we're all about. Join me as we sit down with individuals to discuss the personal struggles, the many challenges, and the moments that define us on this journey of self-discovery. Let's be real, life isn't fair and people make mistakes, but every opportunity is a learning experience. Let's discover the truth together right here on Real Talk. Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Real Talk. I'm your host Alyssa Mahadeo and I am here every Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. Guys, thank you again for joining us. Make sure that if you haven't already that you like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Guys, we're looking to have more subscribers. We're looking to share some real talk with our audiences. I hit the mic like I said I wasn't gonna. I did because I get passionate about things, guys. So today we have an exciting show ahead. I'm thoroughly excited for this show. I've actually interviewed my guest before, but not in this setting. Had a really great conversation over the phone with them. And you know when you just connect with someone, but you got lots to say? That's the kind of guests I have on today. So a lot of my guests that I bring on are people of color, people who are doing great things in the community, people who are passionate about the work that they do. And, you know, I enjoy hearing their stories. I enjoy hearing how they've overcome challenges and how they've navigated through this beautiful thing we call life. And today we're going to be talking to Claudius Brown. Claudius Brown is the Director of Strategic Partnerships at George Brown College. And today we're actually going to be discussing creating mutually beneficial relationships and enhancing our own personal branding. And where that's really going to be coming from is enhancing our personal branding regardless of the color of our skin. I think we get really caught up more or less these days in what color our skin is and what we can accomplish. And I totally get it because, you know, we talk a lot about our ancestors and how they struggled and the things that they went through and the strides that they made to kind of get to us to this point where we are today. But we've come so far. We've come so far, and I want to talk today a little bit about how, let's be honest, the color of our skin doesn't matter because it's about your drive. It's about the hustle. It's about how far you're willing to go in order to get what it is that you want. And that's really what we're going to talk about today. Claudius' story, when I heard it, I was like, this man has done literally everything. He's had his hands in a little bit of everything. Again, the things that he's had to deal with in his life, the things that, the challenges, the things he's come through, and the way that he's, you know, acknowledged and learned from those experiences is really, really important in today's conversation. So we're going to have Claudius today on the show. We're going to have a really great conversation. Make sure that you stay tuned. We'll be right back. You're watching Real Talk.
Hello, my name is Anisha, and I'm the production manager of TCN Network. Have you ever wanted to host your own show? Do you have a message to share? Well, you're in luck. We are looking for dynamic and unique individuals to host their own shows. We are seeking people who are committed, motivated, and energetic. Do you want to be the next Jimmy Fallon, Ellen DeGeneres, or Shane and Ryan from BuzzFeed Unsolved? Start here. Fill out the Propose a Show form on mytcntv.com. We're here to educate, support, and build the community. Can you lead by example? Go the extra mile and seek knowledge? Are you humble, disciplined, responsible, selfless, and enthusiastic? Those are our core values. And if you identify with them, you could be part of a growing network that focuses on positivity and uplifting our community. We can't wait for you to join us on TCN Network and hope to hear from you soon.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Welcome back. You're watching Real Talk, and I'm your host, Alyssa Mahadeo. Guys, thank you again for joining us today on the show. As I mentioned before, today we have on my show, we've got Claudius Brown. Claudius Brown is he's the Director of Strategic Partnership at George Brown College, and he is going to be here today to share a little bit of his story, how he's gotten to this point in his life, and it's a fabulous journey. I thoroughly enjoy talking to Claudius. That's why I invited him to come on my show. And you guys know that I enjoy really good conversations. So today we're going to hear a little bit from Claudius, and we're going to talk about strategic movements that we can make in our lives, just to enhance our experience and also to get us to that point where we want to be.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you earlier. So this is a very good experience. I don't know where you want me to start, but
so let's start with so you a little bit about you and your background, and
Sure.
Kind of how you started on the entrepreneurial route.
Okay. So I'm originally from Trinidad. This will be my 58th year on the planet. It's been a very interesting 58 years, I'll tell you that. But we came up in 1971 from Trinidad and moved to Montreal during the Bill 101. For those of you a little bit older and recognize the bill that said you had to speak. If your parents weren't raised in the country or in the province, you had to go into French immersion. And I believe it was 75% of your courses went to French immediately. So there were a lot of us who failed. And it wasn't really the right thing to do by the government. But in hindsight, I'm still fluent. And so I learned a great deal from that. But that really taught me one thing, I believe, is that don't give up. There were times I remember, and I think a lot of immigrants will share the same thing. You were just totally lost living in Montreal, not speaking the language, not understanding the culture. And my parents we never were in a black only area. We were in a bit of we called it the immigrant ghetto, Côte-de-Neige. For those of you who are familiar with Côte-de-Neige in Montreal, it's changed a little bit now, but you had Hasidic Jews, blacks, Portuguese. We were all there because we were all poor.
We just came into the
we just
country.
came into
we
the
don't know
country.
what to do. Yeah.
That's right. But we all played street hockey on Saturdays, and we all pretended to be our favorite Montreal Canadian hockey players. But, I think that was a very instrumental time for me because even growing up in Trinidad, we were poor but clean. It was never a feeling sorry for yourself or any of those things. You made sure your face was washed, and you made sure you had a nice part in your hair. And if you didn't, the school teachers would help you understand the importance of keeping those things. Even to this day, I have two sons. They're 28 and 24. And to this day, my wife chuckles because their fingernails are always clean, and their faces are, they're grown men now.
Gotta make sure.
Oh yeah, they gotta make sure.
Well-groomed.
And that came from those experiences. So long answer to a short question you asked. I think sometimes we don't take enough time to reflect on some of the things we've gone through as children, and we keep marching on because we think we have to. But I look back at all those things lining up in front of my school in Petey Valley, and having the teachers check my hair and check my part, and making sure that your teeth were clean. I mean, they went right down to that list.
Wow.
They check your eyes for sleep to make sure you'd wash your face. It was serious, but the boys didn't believe me until I took them, back to Trinidad, and I went by the old school, Crystal Stream Elementary, and they saw the kids lining up outside and going, "Dad, you weren't lying." I'm going, "Why would I lie?" Trying to make a point.
My parents are the same way. My parents are Trinidad immigrant parents,
Yeah.
Trinidadian immigrants. So when they came up here, they tell us the same thing. They're like, if you guys went to school and we went to school, you wouldn't. And I was like, I mean.
Yeah. And you swam backwards for 2 miles and all that kind of stuff. But it really was true. And so it gave us a certain understanding. And my grandparents raised me for a few years. And my grandmother had 14 kids of her own and also took in
14 kids.
14 kids, yeah. Crazy. And also took in some of the grandchildren at various points. When my parents moved to Canada, we had to wait for, I think, 4 or 5 years before they could afford to bring us over. And so that was 1971. So it was very much of, share, right? And if you were fighting outside, you went until it was safe to come back.
Yeah, licks. I told you guys to talk about licks all the time.
Yeah. But it was good. It was good. So I went to my high school in Montreal, and then won a couple of scholarships to go to a theology school in California. And I think when you and I were talking earlier, that was really when the specter of racism, or certainly organized racism, reared its head in my life. This particular church was big. There were over 3 million people. And I was at the campus in Pasadena, and they believed that blacks, actually people of any different races, should not be seen together after dark, right? Because sinning apparently only happens after dark. And but they didn't. If you were sitting next to a white girl or a Chinese girl during the day, and we had these beautiful ponds, that would be so frowned upon. You'd feel the pressure, and they tried to explain it off by using some old biblical, Old Testament stuff that really never made any sense.
Yeah.
That you were a spotted cow and you had to be treated differently, and so I challenged that. Probably in the wrong way in hindsight, but I didn't know any better but to question it, and so they kicked me out. I just won my second scholarship, and I challenged them on this whole racism, which I thought. And I remember my dad, God bless him, I love my dad, but he was so caught up in it, he wouldn't. There was only one truth, and that was the church's truth. Yep. And so I woke up in the morning this particular day and said, okay, something's about to happen. So the honest truth, I said, Lord, let's do it quick. And he was very understanding about that. So they were essentially the dean, not the dean, but the our dorm monitor was waiting for me as I came out of my room and trucked me down to the office. And that was in the morning, and I was on the red-eye flight back to Montreal at that time.
Wow. They were like, quick, get this guy, he's done.
Well, yeah, he's done, and we don't want him affecting the rest of the group.
Terribly influencing. They're like, yes. These guys he has different ideas.
Yes.
We got to purge now. Purge it now.
And it was really kind of amazing. And I again, in hindsight, I learned some lessons there. So this was a very, special school, right? So you had to have, decent marks and all these kind of things. So I was very fortunate to be there in that respect. But people that I'd known for years, who had been fortunate enough to be, again, selected or approved, they stopped hanging out with me. And I never heard from them again.
Wow.
Yeah, and that, I think you and I talked about resiliency. I think it all goes back to, you got to pause and go, my goodness. So these were friends I thought were real friends, and they said goodbye to me as my carcass was being hauled off to LAX airport. But I never heard. I honest to goodness never heard from any one of them again.
Wow. Because
they either had to stick with the church, or then
that's the fear.
That's the fear, And so I moved back to Montreal. I think I had a disc jockey business, and I was doing a big gig at it was called the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Montreal, and moments in your life, eh? And I just finished the gig and was waiting to go get my van, and this very prominent-looking businessman and his wife was wearing a fur coat. It's like I could see it. I said like it was right in front of me, and he said to the doorman, he said, "Get me a taxi but I don't want it to be a effing Haitian in French, right? And I was like, that's not Montreal. Montreal was never like that to me.
Yeah.
And but it had become that way because there's so all these things were just, and I just kept doing okay. Well, so I left and moved to Ottawa. I became a stand-up comic and a disc jockey. And
That's my favorite, that you've gone from
Yeah.
theology to
Well, I
disc
had
jockey.
I had a lot to say.
You were like, so do you want to hear the biggest joke?
Yeah. And I work with some guys who have gone on to done really well. Nora MacDonald and Jeremy Hotz, Mike MacDonald, who just passed away unfortunately a few months ago from I believe it was cancer. And so it was, and I knew I was never going to make that a life, right?
But you had something to say.
I had something to say, and some people listened, and not others did. So again, another moment I was doing a show. It was in Ottawa at the Yuck Yucks Club. That was my home club, and it was a late night show, and everybody came in really hammered, and they weren't getting me. And
I can see how people wouldn't be ready for those
oh
conversations.
my
then.
goodness! Because I wasn't just that kind of a comic. You have to actually
You have
think
to pay
a little
attention.
bit, pay
Yeah.
attention, because things are gonna come back later. And I bombed so badly. I remember looking over to the manager and I said, Howie, I think I've lost him. And he goes, yes, you have, but you get 10 minutes left. You got to finish your set. So that was again a good experience. Well, I don't know if it was a good experience, but it was an experience. So I stayed. I did that for almost 2 years. Met my wife. We've been together for 30 years now, and we had our boys in Ottawa. And I bought a business. Again, I don't think I've ever really lacked fear. Just jump in there and see how this goes. So I bought a business. We grew it from 6 million to just over 14 million. And my partners at the time, and I never should have bought this business because sometimes there's just certain things you can't overcome.
Yeah. So I'm actually going to stop you for a second.
Okay.
We're going to take a quick break and we're going to come back and you can tell us. You can
Okay.
continue that story. So we'll be right back. You're watching Real Talk.
Welcome to Shadow Auto.
Welcome back. You're watching Real Talk. I'm your host, Alyssa Mahadeo, guys. Thank you again for joining us on another episode. And remember, guys, I'm here every Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. And today, my guest is Claudius Brown, and he is here. He's telling a little bit of his story. And again, I enjoy the way you tell your stories, because we were talking a little bit before you came on the show about how the universe sends you things.
Yes.
And again, I'm a firm believer in how the universe sends messages. You just got to pay attention, and you've got to figure out how to decode them later. But it's funny because you know how you ended up in that situation where they expelled you, they sent you off on your way packing, but you still had something to say. And the people that you met along the way kind of influenced that a little bit, because you're like, how is it that I've never experienced this before?
Yes. And I was really taken aback because in the first days of this church, it wasn't like that. Everybody just kind of hung out and we all got along.
Everyone was okay with one
Everyone was
another.
okay, and then you get to the head office, and you find out, and the two leaders of this church both had Gulfstream jets. Right? And how my dad never saw it, I don't get it. But it was amazing, and were 4 limos, right? And there, my parents back in Montreal at that time eating like cut up chicken feet, and I mean, you don't cut up chicken feet, right? That's like terrible. Dumplings, these. To this day, I know as much as every Trinidadian was going to hate me for saying this, I hate dumplings. We had to survive on that.
Well, yeah, because if you have to, if it becomes a means of survival, then I can understand why.
And so I see the soups with the nice potatoes and the dumplings, but it seemed like we ate that every single day. So. But I get down to the church, and they're having prime rib and roasted chicken and all these wonderful things, and delicacies for me, and we're in this wonderful part of California in Pasadena, which is just stunning. A lot of old money, home of the Rose Bowl, and so beautiful gardens and koi fish, and we had swans. There were swans in front of our auditorium. Our auditorium had gold-plated, what are they called, acoustic pillows to reflect sound. So when big artists like Ray Charles, I saw them 2 or 3, when they came to Southern California, this is where they'd play.
Wow.
Vladimir Horowitz, the world-famous pianist, the Harlem Dance Company, they would all come to our auditorium. So as students, so long as you didn't mind sitting in the nosebleeds, which weren't really nosebleeds, you'd have a good time. So it seemed not fair, and but a lot of people seemed okay with it.
And you're not the first person to come to me and tell me about how that type of system has failed them.
Yes.
And it's the same thing. I mean, we're all kind of raised to believe in something. Our parents before us, that's how they were brought up and raised as well. So I mean, like my mom used to go to church, and my father is a Hindu. Yeah. So we were raised Hindu, but we were also raised with a little bit of Christian faith because we were taught to also accept all faiths and religions, and just accept them equally. Everyone's going to believe what they believe. But again, it's not the first time that it's kind of come to light in a negative way.
Yes.
Where you've been exposed to racism and just how it affects you as a person and how it affects people around you and how you see other people in turn just taking on that same type of behavior.
Yes. I think it became easy, and my wife's white, and a funny story, her maiden name is White, and my name is Brown, so we couldn't really have a religious wedding because
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, that's the truth. We thought about it because no, we just have to let people sit wherever they want.
The white brown wedding.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. So it was really an very important part of my life. I think once the church part was over, and I bought this business and we grew it, and so you have first was God. Apparently God saying, Claudius, you're really not worth all that much as a black guy at this church. And then I bought this business, grew it well, it allowed me to buy my home and all this, and in Ottawa. And then my business partners, even though we'd grown the business, tried to steal the business from me, tried to fire me from my own company.
Wow.
And it was entirely based on the fact that they felt that I was getting a little bit too, I hate to use the word, but uppity. I wasn't...
You're doing too well for yourself.
I was doing too well. Thank you. Well said. And so I'll always remember I just taken my sales team out. There were 18 of us, and we went whitewater rafting. I get back out in the Ottawa Valley, which is a wonderful thing to do if you've never tried that. And came back, and they tried to lock me out of my own office. And the worst part of the day wasn't that. The worst part was having to go to my wife and my 2 boys. They're out playing in the park. And I said, I think I've lost the business. And I'm not quite sure how I'm going to handle this. But as you and I talked about, there was no guidance. I just couldn't allow myself to fail. And I wouldn't allow that. So I got all my money back. They ended up being, dismissed or removed. And not that that was anything, because I don't believe in, things are going to always work out. They were just crooks, and I didn't know it.
Sometimes you don't know.
And you just don't
true
know.
character. I think I had asked you the question. I had asked you this question, but like, how can you possibly know who to trust?
Yeah.
And like you said, you were in business with them. You were there. There was a friendship, obviously, there.
At some point. Yeah.
So there was a level of trust, and then when they come and do something like this, you're just like, what just happened?
Well, that's a really good point too. Alyssa, I don't think, when we were talking in your office. I mean, you have a tendency, you have to be who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a trusting person,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not stupid, but I'm a trusting person. And so I think you have to look at it and say, okay, well, I can't go through my life being beat up and beat down because I've had a few very interesting things happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still standing, and I see a lot more of that needs to be taken. I think you just can't. And I've raised my sons to be like that. There's no. You're gonna have. It's gonna be tough, right? So if you need to cry, cry.
Mm-hmm.
A bad thing to do. But just don't cry for months on end.
Cry and then figure it out.
And then figure it out,
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that has always kind of been my mantra. I'm not going to escape the fact that
Mm-hmm.
people can be really terrible.
They can.
Yeah. So I don't know what the other answer is.
I mean, sometimes too. I mean, that doesn't only come in the form of business partners and friends. It comes in the forms of family.
Yes.
Family.
Yeah.
And sometimes those are the worst ones
Mm-hmm.
because you want to put all of your invest everything that you have in someone like your family, your close family members, and then when they let you down, it hurts that much more.
Well, I've lost a brother to hepatitis and a sister to AIDS in Trinidad, and both of them are a direct result of my birth mother's lack of parenting, and which is why it was my grandparents, and he practices some of the dark arts, and that I'm not going to get into, but I've seen the repercussions of that. And so talk about, that's a letdown. Those two, my beautiful brother and sister did not need to die.
Mm-hmm.
They could have lived and had a good life in Trinidad if they had been given a fair chance to. So all these, you know what I mean? You just keep going. I don't keep track anymore, or tabs, I should say. But that really impacts me.
Mm-hmm.
I did a show last night, not a show, but we have a program last night called Speed Mentoring.
Okay.
At the college, at George Brown College.
Mm-hmm.
It was mentoring a group of international students, and they'd each sit 2 or 3, and you'd move. And I was so moved by their experiences and their reasons for coming here. Chinese, Indian, not too many Caribbean kids were there at this point, and they varied in ages. Some from Dubai, but boy, oh boy, they're taking it on the chin. They are tough, but they also need support, and they also need people to understand their message. So I think as all these things are happening around us, and we talked about, you got to pause. That's my message to anybody that cares to listen.
Yeah.
Pause.
Yeah.
So.
And that's what we kind of like the theme of today's show really is strategic movements
Okay.
that we can make in order to facilitate things that are happening in our own lives,
Right.
but then also in turn help other people.
Yes.
I think mentoring is something I speak to all the time on this show. But mentoring is something that, again, is a huge part of my life. I've had people that mentor me or people that I learn from. And again, even learning what mentoring is, it doesn't always have to be from a person. It can just be from online. It can be from any outlet that, you can gain helpful
That's right.
knowledge from.
Yes. An event, and so I have this thing that I believe in. I coach basketball out in Newmarket. I've been for 18 years, and I've taught anybody that needs to listen to follow the 3-second rule. And my kids know it well. They'll tell you, "Oh no, not that. Is Dad going to bring that story up?"
Dad's going to come and bring his knowledge here, and we're not here to hear it.
Yeah, oh my goodness, turn that off. The 3-second rule is you ask yourself, why am I doing this? Is this good for me? Am I in the right place? Takes 3 seconds, right? It's a pause. It's not even a breath. I think it's maybe 1.5 breaths.
Yeah.
But it's really, really worked. Do I need to get angry? Whatever question you want to ask yourself.
Yeah.
But it's just 3 seconds.
I like that, and I want to get more into that.
Sure.
So we're gonna take a pause. We're gonna go to break, and when we come back, I want to break down that concept a little bit further. So we'll be right back. You're watching Real Talk. Welcome back. You're watching Real Talk, and today conversation's hot. It's live, and it's really, really great. Thank you so much, Claudius, for coming on the show today. And before the break, we were talking a little bit about the 3-second rule, which is a rule that you implement in your life and your son's lives. You've taught people. And again, we were talking a little bit on the break, a little bit about how that even applies to just anything that you do in your life, especially because most times if you're doing something, it's the first time you're doing it.
Right. And working at the college, so I'm a director of business development and partnerships at George Brown College. And last night I had an event called, I didn't host the event, but I was part of the event, called Speed Mentoring. And so it's a lot of, there were about 20 students there, and each had a story, international students. And we were talking about how they can be successful. So they were there to actually reach out and say, help me out.
How do I be successful?
How am I being successful? I'm from China. I'm from India. I'm from Ghana. I've been here a month. And I said, well, you picked a bad month, first of all. You got to choose better than February. But anyway. But I think, it was very important for me to say a couple of things to them. And one of them was that one young lady, a Chinese young girl, said to me, I'm so different. And people treat me differently because of my accent. And I'm going, in Toronto, you feel that? And I was clear on saying this, and I gave a speech years ago at Canadore College, I was just saying to you, a convocation address, and it was about that nobody's allowed to steal your joy. There's not a single person on this planet who has the right to steal your joy. And your joy can come from, as you just mentioned, your first day of college or first day of university, whatever, post-secondary, and you get there on time. Well, hallelujah. That's a joyful experience.
Listen, we had 8 a.m. classes. We know if you made it to an 8 a.m. class on time, that was joyful for you.
Joyful, Maybe putting on 2 socks and they were the same color. Right? But whatever it is, I think we are so prone to letting people take away our joy and putting ourselves in a position that they're allowed to do that. So the whole speech, the whole convocation address was on that. It talked about, I was the first person in my family to get a college degree. And then my sisters did. And so in this particular program or speech that I gave, the First Nations children that were part of that college, they would be the first, right, in their family, or maybe in their family history, to have a post-secondary education. Yeah. Those are joyful things. So count your joys. And then the 3-second rule is, again, really just a breath, to pause, and to really be clear on the fact that, you know when you're not in the right place, right? You know it.
The universe will tell you.
It'll tell you, yeah. So listen, 3 seconds, right? And there's been a lot of talk lately about, I want to do my passion, right? And I kind of disagree with that because I believe that. Well, I love coaching basketball. That's my passion. But I'm really good at business development. Okay. Now, when I'm ready to retire, I can walk away from business development in a heartbeat. But the passion of something else. But I think people get confused that they've got to be passionate about what they're doing. You got to be good at what you're doing.
You have to be excellent at what you're doing. Otherwise,
you're not
going to make it. You're not going to succeed. And people are asking about, how do I be successful? Well, you got to be good at something.
Yes.
You got to make sure that you're good at something.
And identify it, right? And you mentioned earlier, you identified back in high school, you said that, hey, you like journalism, and then you explained to your parents that you like journalism, so good on you. But I don't see that a lot. I see a lot of, I'm looking for this passion. And passion's great.
And the way I approach a lot of things, too, is what am I good at? Yeah. That's kind of how I approached my career, right. Looking at my career going into university, going into after high school, because again, in high school I'm freaking out. I'm like, oh no, I've got to go to school. Yeah. And I wasn't one of those students who was able to take a year off and have that leisure and to think about what I was going to do with my life. It was like, you're done, you graduate today, you're starting in September in university, and it wasn't even college. I wasn't even allowed at college. It was university, because the minute I was born, it was decided that I was going to university. Oh. Now, I mean, I'm not mad at it because I enjoyed that entire experience. But I always remember, just if I had a little bit more time to think about things. And I realized I had to kind of condense that time for myself and realize really, like, Alyssa, what are you good at? Yeah. What are you going to be doing?
Yeah, yeah. And finding that, I think, is probably the biggest challenge that young people face. And if you are lucky enough where you can make money off YouTube, fill your boots. Yeah. Right? But chances are you may need to get a real job or do something. And I'm not demeaning anybody, but I see that, and I see that often and often, that there's this, and all you need to do is just take a deep breath. And I said to the group last night, if I was to put you in the middle of a room and say, okay, now go meet everybody, what would you do? Yeah. And a couple of them said, well, it ain't happening, right? I said, okay, well, sales and marketing is off the
100%.
It's off the table.
We're not talking to anybody here today.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So maybe research, but because they haven't taken the time, and maybe their parents haven't said it, who knows, but to just pause, take a little breath, and find out what you like, and I think it really works.
I also think an important part of that is even taking away from the opinion of other people.
Yes, good thought.
I think a lot of people tend to listen to other people when it comes to making decisions about the rest of their life, instead of listening to themselves. Because they're like, well, I'm inexperienced, I don't know. And I'm like, everyone has an experience at some point in their life, and they don't know. But at the end of the day, you kind of know what your own happiness is going to entail.
Right. Well, Mike, you just made me think of one of my sisters, Liz, has this great saying, and it is don't hang around with people who just take out of the pot, right? Meaning, they're not putting any meat or some potatoes or some seasoning.
Not putting anything back. They're not putting stuff out.
Every time they show up, they've got a ladle and a bowl, right? Or a bucket, to take all of your stew. And so she it sounded funny when she first told me, but I've made it part of my creed.
I like it. Yeah. I've already gotten it.
Yeah. Just so be careful with that, because they'll just, and you right? Because you feel empty. You don't feel seasoned.
You don't, exactly. You're like white chicken.
Yeah, you're nothing. You got nothing. You go, what just happened, right? I've been building up my stew all month. I'm feeling real good, and this individual comes along and everything.
It just takes everything.
And just takes everything. And so I think those are good. There's a bunch of good little rules that you can live by. I enjoy my life. I enjoy it. I think people are funny. They're great. They're sometimes really crazy. And you see them on the highways, and you see them in the malls.
People are alive.
Yeah, people are. I saw this guy's. My wife will tell you this. Every day I look for something to make me laugh, or a couple of things. And so that when you get to Union Station, there's a a message that comes on that says, "Please don't run in front of the bus." I asked myself, wait a minute, has it become such a problem with people running in front of the bus that you have
We're
to...
like, what are we doing, guys?
What are we doing here? So anyways, if next time you're down at Union or any GO train, you'll hear that message. But I think you have to look for reasons to laugh. We live in a phenomenal country.
Mm-hmm.
It's a blessed country.
Mm-hmm.
There are tremendous opportunities for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe, too, Alyssa, I think, one of the things that came up in the meeting I was in earlier this week that I wanted to bring up was that one of our managers was talking about the black students and helping them develop a career. And he said, but I don't have a black career advisor to put in front of them. And I said, well, why are we doing that? Why can't we just have any
career? Yeah.
And in his mind, wonderful man, and by no means, he was stuck. And I think that that's something that we need to really address because they did a program on me at the college, and I'm quite clear on this. We need to be more collaborative. People of all races, of all colors, of all backgrounds have so much value to bring to us, and we can't be making this just about the whole, at least in my humble opinion, the whole black experience. It's a world experience. It's a collaborative experience.
Everyone brings something different to the table.
Yes, and and so we need to take advantage of it. I've had black mentors, white mentors, people who've been extraordinarily nasty to me on both sides of the racial spectrum. But I don't look at it as a one approach. God created everybody, and there's value to be had. So I think we need to enjoy that.
Yeah, I definitely believe so as well. So we're going to take one last break, and when we come back, we're going to wrap up this conversation with Claudius. But we're having some really great real talk today, guys. So we'll be right back. Remember, stay tuned.
Hello, my name is Anisha, and I'm the production manager of TCN Network. Have you ever wanted to host your own show? Do you have a message to share? Well, you're in luck. We are looking for dynamic and unique individuals to host their own shows. We are seeking people who are committed, motivated, and energetic. Do you want to be the next Jimmy Fallon, Ellen DeGeneres, or Shane and Ryan from BuzzFeed Unsolved? Start here. Fill out the Propose a Show form on mytcntv.com. We're here to educate, support, and build the community. Can you lead by example? Go the extra mile and seek knowledge? Are you humble, disciplined, responsible, selfless, and enthusiastic? Those are our core values. And if you identify with them, you could be part of a growing network that focuses on positivity and uplifting our community. We can't wait for you to join us on TCN Network and hope to hear from you soon.
Are you retiring smart? Make your home's equity work for you. With your home's equity and our 30 years of experience, the Retire Smart Properties team can help you achieve the quality of life you've always wanted. Our services are 360 degrees. We'll give you advice, take care of staging and selling, and help you find the perfect home and community to transition to. It's time to enjoy the retirement lifestyle you deserve. Visit our website today to learn how you can use your home to retire comfortably. The Retire Smart Properties team, powered by RE/MAX West.
Welcome back. You're watching Real Talk. I was looking at the wrong camera, but that's how these things go. Guys, welcome back. Thank you again for watching. We're having some really great conversations today with Claudius Brown. As I said, he is the Director of Strategic Partnership at George Brown College. And we're having some awesome conversations around, things that I'm passionate about, especially when it comes to this conversation around race, around just being happy, around enjoying your life experience to its fullest and not letting anything hinder that process. And I wanted to share a story too. You were talking a little bit about mentorship, and I remember even when I was in high school that my guidance counselor, I didn't understand the true value of my guidance counselor until I was looking at going to university and college. Because it was only then that I needed to ask these questions, because I realized, remember, my parents are Trinidadian immigrants. They've never gone to school here. They can't answer these questions for me. And so that's when I really understood the true value of having a guidance counselor and talking to them and my guidance counselor was by no means, he was a guy and he didn't look like me at all. And he was not in journalism, so it's not like he could advise me well. But the conversations that I had with him around my future was what was very beneficial to me because he was like, well, if you're looking at doing this, these are kind of some of the steps that you would have to take. And I think I really appreciated those conversations, and I continued to have them into university because I realized I was very scared, as you talk about fear, I was very scared about asking questions because I was like, well, it's my future, I should be able to figure it out. But
That's a good point.
you don't have all the questions, you don't have all the answers. And a lot of the people, like I said, very actively involved in mentorship myself, a lot of the people that I learned from are younger than me.
It's and I go back to this speed mentoring last night. I was really surprised, and at George Brown we have close to 90,000 students, over close to 30,000 are full time and 60,000 part time. Mm-hmm. We have a whole host of programs, and the students weren't asking the questions.
Yeah.
So and that's something I'm going to take back to some of our leadership people. How can we? Why are they not asking the question? The first thing to understand.
Of course.
And I believe we have the right answers. Mm-hmm. But that fear, and you and I talked about this. One of my challenges, I mentioned I've been coaching ball for many, many years, and our black young men are, my humble opinion again, are failing, and they need to catch up, mm-hmm. and we need to do something dramatic. And I don't know what it is. Mm-hmm. So I ask any of you who are out there listening and watching, perhaps, I'd love to hear what you think. I mean, I think we have to get past some of the traditional challenges that we're quite aware of, sociological, all those things. But why don't they want to ask the question?
Well, and it's funny that you bring this up too, because a lot of the people that I have in my life are females, and that's not really by design. Because I'm not looking to only speak to the female gender about these things, because I think everyone is affected similarly. Like, I have two brothers, and I'm the oldest, so I don't have any little sisters when you think about it, right? But the way I talk to my brothers is the way I would deal with my sisters. I deal with them the same way because you guys still have the same experience. You've got things that you still have to do. It doesn't matter that you might take different steps towards it, but you still got to figure it out.
Right.
And I've never really had the privilege to kind of sit down with young boys, young black men, to ask them, what do you guys need to know?
Yeah. And I don't know if they know what they need to.
I don't think they do either.
But there's it's seen in the stats that minority or marginalized youth amongst men, mm-hmm. young boys, are abysmal. And to quote an acquaintance of mine, and then they disappear. So we don't know what happens to them. Mm-hmm. And I look at our downtown campus on King Street, our main campus, St. James, and I see a lot of these diversified young men, mm-hmm. but they leave after the first year.
Yeah.
And so we really have to start more than just a communication.
Yeah.
We have to start a movement to really embrace this, mm-hmm. because I'm afraid that as the world goes on, we're gonna fall more and more behind. Mm-hmm. And if we don't get these young men to start appreciating the value not only for themselves as men, but the fact that they do have a voice, what they can do in their lives does matter, and there's so many things. I mean, from the trades. Those are high-paying jobs. Mm-hmm. I had a plumber come out to my house. Until you've had a plumber come to your house, you have no idea. But it was just to replace a valve thingy. I wasn't going to touch it. And I said to him, first of all, it cost me $870. And he was there for like less than an hour. And I said, how busy are you? And he goes, I'm busy as I want to be. Right? And those are good jobs. Mm-hmm. Women in trades. I've had this morning in my office, people talking to me, two organizations about women in trades. There's so much so much, and I don't. I really believe that somehow, some way, and maybe that's what the universe is telling me as we're talking about earlier.
Yeah.
We need to address this.
And it's funny too that we talk about this because like I want to make sure that we reiterate that it's not that all black men or black young men are dropping out of university and college, because I've met some. I hadn't had this time to sit down and talk in depth with them, and it's funny that we talk about this now because now I'm remembering it. But I've spoken to a couple of men's and it's young men for interviews, and it's because they've won awards or scholarships,
Right.
and they've garnered that recognition. But there's an ambition and a drive there that I don't know where it comes from.
Yeah.
And it's very admirable to see because when you ask them what their ambitions are, they tell you things, and you're like, "What am I doing?"
Right. Well, you're bang on. It's not that there's a whole, but there are more failing than there are of other races, and so we need to address that.
Yeah, of course.
And so think big, think large, take advantage of this again amazing country. Take advantage of our education system. Take advantage of George Brown College. We have a lot to offer, but it's not only in the trades, honorable jobs. It's in business. It's in accounting. It's in data analytics.
We still need people to be doing things. I think that's the main thing, right? I think with this growing trend in technology, right now people assume that robots are going to take over the world, so I don't need to be able to do this.
Yeah, but somebody needs to own the robot. So get a job owning robots. But think big, and I again I'm so thankful that you've given me this opportunity. But I really believe that some kind of a movement quietly. Where we get these.
There are people working, and again, it's still very, very under the radar work.
Yes.
But what they're doing now is trying to get youth in at a younger age.
Right.
So not waiting until they're in high school.
Correct.
To be able to have these conversations with them, but start them young. So start them at like 5, 6.
Exactly.
Getting them into programs where they kind of see what options they have. And I know, specifically in the last like 2 years, especially during Black History Month. I've always heard about these STEM or these STEAM programs, and that's like the science, arts, math, technology, those type of programs being geared towards younger students and younger students of color, because what it's allowing them to do is kind of explore a different avenue that they may have not considered before.
Correct.
So a lot of them have not considered. A lot of girls have not considered careers in engineering.
Yes.
And thinking about going into school to be an engineer.
Correct, yes.
And what that's doing is opening those younger girls' eyes, because they're like, I wanted to do this because that's what women should do.
Exactly.
And I'm like, that's not a conversation. That's being told what to do. That's not having your own open mind about what you would like to do or what you would like to explore.
Yeah.
And that was a really, really, to me was amazing to hear that this young girl who went from thinking about going into she wanted to be, I don't know, let's say a veterinarian. But then she decided, you know what, maybe I'm thinking about engineering because I actually enjoy it based on this program that I've been in, what I've seen and what I've learned.
Well, I think it's that, but I said to these young people yesterday, really no more fear. No more fear, we are living in what I think is arguably the best country on earth.
We are.
And this city is arguably makes us the best city in the world. So I think, yes, I mean, Alyssa talked a little bit about, I talked a little bit about my past, and it wasn't always easy. And I look back and I shake my head and I chuckle, and there's still challenges, trust me. But I know and I believe that we're in the right place at the right time now, and the opportunities are immense. So reach out. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Take 3 seconds and pause. Get a couple of laughs. Listen. Go down to the GO station and listen to the warning about running in front of the bus. But I really thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Claudius, for coming on today. And we had a really, really great conversation. Guys, if you're looking to get in touch with Claudius, I did put his links below in the description box, so you can find them there. You can get in touch with him. Bounce your ideas off of him. If you are offering programs and things like that, and he's looking for help to figure out how to reach these students. So I think it's very, very important that we have these conversations and we consider, what the options are, especially for the next generation. So thank you again for watching the show today. Make sure that you guys like this video. Make sure you share it. And I will see you again next week.